Alright, now we're going to look at how to set up a character animation using both parenting and puppet pen tools. We'll do a small scene where we have a character walking through it. So we first need to import our projects, or our project files. So I'm going to go ahead and import my parallax example file first as a composition retaining layer sizes. This is the same file we've used in the past. Go ahead and double click to go inside, and this is going to be the background for our character. Now we are going to import our character, and that'll be in the same character animation folder. We're going to bring in our cowboy. He's going to be walking through our city. So once again, set it to composition retain layer sizes. Click open, and we're going to put it in between our car and table layer. And we're going to keep this character pre-compositioned. We'll do the animation inside of the composition, and we'll create a looping animation that can play indefinitely as the background kind of pans behind him. So I'm going to lock my cowboy for right now. And I want to set up a new null object layer, because this is going to control all the movement of our background. And let me go ahead and rename this. To rename a layer, you select it and then hit return. Call this background CTRL for controller. And all of my background layers are going to get parented to my background controller layer. So the reason I'm going to do this is if I try to scale each of these layers individually, you'll see that they all kind of scale from their own axis. And I could put them all on the same axis, but I want to be able to move the background anyway. So I'm going to take my background controller, and instead of scaling all my individual layers, I can just scale my background controller layer. I can also reposition it, scale it up more, reposition it, don't squash it. And that'll be a little bit closer to the right size. Let's go all the way up to 400. And since I have my background controller layer selected, that will make it so that when I'm using my arrow keys here, I can reposition it. Or you can drag the controller as well. Start them right there. Right. And just to make sure I don't accidentally mess with any of my layers, I'm going to go ahead and lock all my other layers as well. So our background's set up. Now we want to go inside of our cowboy layer. So I'm going to have to unlock it and double click to go inside. Now once in here, we want to parent the arms to the body. So I'm going to grab my front arm, my back arm, and parent them both to my body. What this will allow me to do is when I rotate my body or move my body at all, the arms will go with it. But I can still keep the legs separate, because usually the rotation happens from the hips and not from the center of the body. It's going to happen from more where the legs hit the body. Now the next thing we're going to want to do is we want to set up our anchor points to be in about the right spot. And this is a little bit of trial and error to get this right. So you're going to grab the pan behind tool, also known as the anchor point tool. The hotkey for it is Y. And let me take snapping off for right now. Snapping will allow it to snap to different objects. I'm going to try right there first. It's a pretty good location, maybe just a little bit closer to my front leg. Oops. That way it should rotate fairly well. I might even go dead center on the front leg and not worry about the back leg. If I need to align the back leg to it, I can still. And that gives them a pretty wide degree of movement without the leg looking like it's going to separate. Now, let's go ahead and set up our other anchor points. I move my front leg one up to the center of the circle. If I hide my body real quick, you can see that the way that I set this up is kind of a rounded top, and that'll allow me to kind of put a circle into this. And that way when it rotates, it won't seem like it's snapping apart as easily. It's a little rough. I'm going to go towards the back a little bit. And that's a little better. I don't mind if it goes up a bit. Then I'm going to do the same thing for my rear leg. This one's not as important because you won't be able to see where it connects to the body. But you still want to get it in basically the right spot because you still want it to rotate in the right area. There we go. And then we'll do a similar thing for our arms as well. Starting with my front arm, I'm going to go up towards the shoulder. I already get my rotation property to test it out. Looks pretty good. And then the same for the back arm towards the shoulder. Once again, it's a good idea to hide the body for this to see where it's supposed to be located. And then always test it out to make sure that it looks like it's moving all right. All right, looks pretty good. All right, we got our characters set up. We're gonna do one last thing. Let's go ahead and build a ground for him to walk on. Now we want this ground to show up within this composition, but when we go to our main composition, which is the parallax example file, we don't want the background to show up anymore. So what I'm gonna do is grab one of my shape tools, make sure that my fill is on. I don't really need my stroke on. And the color doesn't really matter as long as it's gonna stand out and it's easy to see. I'm just going to draw a rectangle underneath his feet. This way I know where my ground is. This way when he's walking, he won't look like he's floating up and down because we can align him to where this ground is. Let me go ahead and rename that ground. And then to get this so that it doesn't render when you are in your main composition, you're going to right click and choose guide layer right here. And you'll see this little kind of grid appear next to it, letting us know that this is a guide layer. What that will allow it to do is when we go back to our main composition, it won't show up. If we didn't have that on, it would show up in here and look really silly to have this red carpet kind of following them along. So you want to make sure you do turn that into a guide and then lock it when you're done. That'll keep you from accidentally moving it. Remember, this is only useful for making sure that your character isn't going up and down when they're just supposed to be walking back and forth. All right, so we got the basic rigging of this done. In the next video, we're going to look at how to apply puppet pin tools, and that'll allow us to bend the arms and legs a little bit.